Hey guys, what's up? It is week 313, and you know what? Let's just hop right into the reviews. The first one up is from Cauldron Films. This is from 1978, and it's a Euro crime film, or Polizia Tetsi, and this is Convoy Busters. Now, this is directed by, Stelvio Massi? How do you say his name? This guy's done a bunch of stuff. If you guys remember the Years of Lead box set, he did the one with... Merli in it, Maurizio Merli with the car racing, which is pretty cool. This is also, has Maurizio Merli in it, of course. This guy, Maurizio Merli, was kind of like, they couldn't get Franco Nero at the time, and he came kind of like this second-rate Franco Nero, but he's also different, just tougher, kind of more, stunt-oriented. So, Convoy Busters, here we go. So, this one I had heard about, again, in passing. I had not seen it, and I was interested, of course, by the director, the actor, and hell, it's a 70s Euro crime film. I'm going to be interested in it. So, what we have here, of course, is this a cop who's completely off, he's a vigilante cop, right? But in one way, you look at this nowadays through today's lens, and people are going to be like, holy shit, this cop is just brutalizing, he's beating witnesses up, he's no good, he's a villain. And yeah, he is in that sense, right? Same kind of similar to 10 to Midnight. Yeah, Bronson just committing all these crimes, but as a cop. But then you look at him, who his main target is. He's not targeting like youth or young people or drug pushers. He will abuse them to get to the top. But he's literally going after the drug dealers, the powerful drug dealers, the politicians, all these people that are generally causing harm to society. So in a way, he's a villain and a hero all in the same breath in this kind of aspect, even when you look at it today's lens, you know what I mean? So Maurizio Merli is really solid in this one. He's intense, he's good. And this one almost is weird. It's almost like a vignette kind of deal. Where you think it's one storyline and it kind of jumps to 2 or 3 different storylines. At first, what we have here is Merli as this cop in a big city, and he catches on to this kind of this murder, and he starts to, all signs kind of start to focus on this kind of heavy kind of business guy who's up there, and he starts to press really hard on some people, including his kid, and some other people are ended up dead, and he realizes that no matter how hard he fights or pushes towards it, there's a system in place, and these people are protected. And you think that there's going to be some sort of completely different kind of switch where he's going to go after, but it kind of switches gears completely. At one point, we're following a prisoner who escapes, and we have this helicopter chase scene. And then at the very end, we end up kind of on his giving up. He's given up, and he realizes he can't fight the system. But, crime is everywhere. And even in this coastal town, crime's going to come to him. And what is he supposed to do? He can't look the other way because who he is. So there's really great stuff in that aspect. Now, Mike Malloy, and I can't think of the other guy who does the commentary on here. It's a really good commentary, so I want to make sure I give them credit. Mike Malloy and Mike Martinez. Now, they break down, why this one stands out a little bit more than the other Merli stuff. He's a little bit more, I guess, sensitive, I guess is the word to look for. Of course, this one is the late 70s, so we were having squibs, a lot of the Euro crime films, or Euro films in general, horror films. Squibs weren't really a thing in a lot of them. Even if you look back in some of the 60s American action movies, there's no squibs in The Dirty Dozen from 67. That stuff didn't start happening until, 69 with Bonnie and Clyde, and 68, and stuff 67 Bonnie and Clyde, 68 Wild Bunch, it became more prevalent. But by the time we're at the late 70s, the Italians are doing it. So there's squibs galore, there's slow motion. And another thing that they point out in the commentary, but I noticed myself, because I watch a lot of Euro films, a lot of Euro horror films, and usually the camera work's really solid. So solid that I'm so used to a lot of the solid camera work that I don't take note of the camera work that I really like. Obviously they're in a wide or a medium, and they'll go into a close-up, a whip pan, or whatever, a zoom, so they don't have to change the angles. It's kind of a money, saving tactic, but it always looked really good because they were so good at their camera work. This one I noticed some of the tracking shots and they had to have dollies and lifts and shit. I was just wow, this is a little bit more impressive than your typical Euro crime film. I thought it was well shot, and Merli's good in it. The music is always good in Italian films, 95% of the time. If there's a stinker soundtrack or something, is usually reused a lot of times, and it's still great. But there's sometimes a stinker or one that doesn't stand out. This one does. Olga Carataros, or however you say her name, is in here. From Zombie, Splinter in the Eye. She's gorgeous. She comes in pretty late in the film. There's, of course, some familiar faces as the bad guys. These movies have a stock group of goons that are they're also stuntmen. so you know they're taking hits, they're taking blast. But I really like the detective work that he figures out in the coastal town. I love that what it's saying, you know, like the system, and you can't beat the system, and no matter how hard you try, nobody's going to listen to him, you know. And there's a really dark scene involving an accidental shooting that he has, but it's incredibly violent. Murley's great in it, the action's great in it, the squibs are great in it. One of the better Euro crime films I've seen. I quite enjoyed it, and the special features really helped too. Like I said, that Mike Malloy and Mike Martinez commentary is really good stuff. They point out a lot of the stuff that I mentioned. Some of that because of them. Other stuff, you just notice the cinematography a lot when you see a lot of these, and this when it stands out, and it does. But they point out a lot of stuff about Murley in general. They know a lot about this guy, and there leads me to the next special feature on here, which is Maurizio Murley, a lethal hunter of subtle variation with tough guy film expert Mike Malloy. So basically, Mike Malloy breaks down all the Euro crime films that Murley did, and he talks about the differences and variations, how many times he worked with Lenzi. We just went through that box set, right? The one with the Thomas and Lenzi box set, and he's in that. And he's in the tough ones. He's in a bunch of stuff. So like he breaks down all these different roles and performances from him, and it's interesting. It's really good stuff. It's funny at the same time and informative, as you should be. That's the way you learn, really. I feel like you do. And I've seen a handful of them. I haven't seen all of them. I'm no Mike Malloy, obviously. Even if I have the mustache, still no Mike Malloy. But yeah, so that was good stuff. And then we also have some, I think some older interviews and stuff. Interview with Matal Murley, interview with Danilo Massi. That's the director's wife, I believe, or daughter. Maybe his daughter. Then we also have archival interview with Ruggero Diodato and Yogi Castellari. So great stuff. Yeah, this one's a lot of fun. I'd recommend checking it out. Looked good, sounded good. 78. Like, you want to pick up these Euro crime films. If you're like me and you've like kind of combed all the Euro horror films and you're looking for more of that Euro flavor, that Italy flavor, then you definitely want to grab some of the Poliziotteschi and Euro crime stuff. You will not be disappointed. They usually have, a lot of them have these like great American stars that they say are washed up, or they go over there to become stars, like Charles Bronson, Telly Savalas, he's always a star, but you know what I mean? Like, they're over there. Oliver Reed are in these movies, English star, but still, so many good actors in these films too, and so much great score and filmmaking, and they're just good stuff. Convoy busters, and it's an interesting time in Italy, and it reflects in their films. The vigilante film in Italy is not quite like the vigilante film in America. Okay, next up we have from Cauldron Films, Shanghai Joe. That's right, this one I had not seen. It's by a guy who did a couple horror films, director of Nightmare Castle. I know he did a few other ones, and the two names that stand out to me, of course, are Gordon Mitchell and Klaus Kinski are both in this. So this one is a lot of fun. It's an East meets West, like I said. If you guys don't know what that is, it's kind of incorporating the Old West, but we kind of incorporate, Asian culture in here. So you'll have like a karate or a kung fu expert coming over into the Old West and having to deal with everybody come in contact with. So right in the beginning of this movie, we have this Asian character coming in. I believe he is he supposed to be Japanese or Chinese? I can't remember. I imagine it's kung fu. He's going to be Chinese. That's pretty typical. So he comes in to the Old West and he wants to go to Texas. And right off the bat, he's treated poorly by the stagecoach driver. He's calling him racial slurs, makes him right on top. And you just kind of sense the racism and everything there. And everybody he encounters gives him lip, causes him problems until, of course, he has a bar fight. But it has that kind of Kung Fu Shaw Brothers style mixed in with the Old West, which is a lot of fun. And eventually, he pisses off the wrong guy in this, probably a cattle baron or some sort like that, right? The typical kind of character like that. And he hires 5 badass assassins to kill poor Shanghai Joe. And it's a lot of fun. I love these kind of these group of like bounty hunters. Like they have these names and they have all these special talents. It's almost like a comic book, right? There's like Pedro the cannibal, and then there's the guy who's the gambler, the Ricky the fox, and of course you have Scalper Joe, played by Klaus Kinski, and this is one of his better roles. I always love Klaus Kinski, but this one he's generally creepy. He's got this big hat that pushes down his ears. It makes him look really childlike, and he's just Klaus Kinski, scary as shit already. This one it's like, yeah, Scalper Joe. I'm gonna hard pass on Scalper Joe. Really creepy guy. Gordon Mitchell in here as well. If you guys haven't seen Gordon Mitchell, he's in a bunch of these Italian films. He's got a face like stone. He's kind of like, I don't want to say this. I'm not trying to like, but he looks kind of like Chuck Connors, but the Italian evil version. Like if Chuck Connors and Klaus Kinski ran at each other like full like blast, you might get like somebody kind of like Gordon Mitchell. But no, it's a lot of fun. The kung fu fight scenes are amazing, and the bad guys are really great, and the ending is fun. And I feel like the score was lifted. I swear it has to be from something else. I am almost 110% positive that this is like ripped from one of these Sergio Leone's. It was way too familiar to me, or it's like a slight variation of another classic one. Like I feel like it's got to be from the Dollars trilogy or something. It's just like it was a song. I was like, well, this is embedded in my head. I know this song by heart. I don't. It's not. This doesn't come from this movie. But also, I should mention a special feature: Samurai Spirit interview with Master Katsushi Mirakiriya, and he mentions, they ask him, would you do another movie? He's like, yeah, but I'm a little too old at this point. East meets West Italian style, visual essay by film historian Eric Zalvadar, and this is good stuff because he starts from the very beginning and talks about all the East meets West, and he goes through all of them, including Red Sun and all these other ones, but he says, now these ones are kind of East meets West, these ones are not at all, and this ones are the ones that were almost made. It's pretty in-depth, it's good stuff. We have a commentary by Mike House from the Spaghetti Western Digest. We have trailer, image gallery. This one is a lot of fun as well. I think I prefer Convoy Busters, but that's just more my... Actually, no. I like both of them a bit, but Convoy Busters is just... For what it is, I think it's the better movie. I think it's the better Euro crime movie when you compare. But I mean, when you're throwing East versus West, there's not that... I haven't seen that many of those. I've seen a handful. There's also one with Lee Van Cleef out there. But yeah, Shanghai Joe, if you're interested in East meets West, this is a good starting point, I would imagine. And there's a nice visual essay on here. Good stuff from Cauldron Films. Delivering the goods. You can watch this in English or Italian. I like to watch my Italian movies in English, though. Okay, this next one here is from Arrow Films, and this is Assassination Bureau, LLC. And this is from, 1969, I believe? And this is actually based off a book. Well, it's kind of a weird story. They go into it, and then one of the special features, they talk about how this movie became, source material and all that stuff, how it was like kind of written by Jack London, but he was dead. It was just like memoir. Somebody picked it out and kind of like patched it together and whatnot, and then it was like tried to be adapted earlier, and eventually we end up with this weird kind of broad farcical like comedy, Assassination Bureau, and in the movie they're like LLC. So it's got some good memorable people in here. Of course, it's got Diana Rigg from she was in Game of Thrones. She's also in Theater of Blood, and of course she's in the television show The Avengers. And she was just in what was Last Night in Soho, and it's also got Telly Savalas from The Dirty Dozen, Violent City, Kelly's Heroes, one of my personal favorite actors, love him, and one of my other favorite personal actors, it's got Oliver Reed. How the hell could you not love Oliver Reed? He's kind of young in this one. So Oliver Reed is basically, he runs this assassination for hire business, and Diana Rigg is a reporter. Telly Savalas runs this paper. She wants to get a job here. It's a period piece before World War I, so they're not going to hire her. But they're going to hire her on the down low. And she wants to expose this assassination bureau. So she finds it, tracks it down, goes in there, and she wants to hire an assassination. That's how the only way she's going to do it. And she hires the bureau to assassinate Oliver Reed, who runs it. And he's like, well, I guess we got to play together. And Oliver Reed's really quirky and weird. So it turns out that Telly Savalas is the vice president, and he has a lot to gain. I sound like Jesse Ventura here. Telly Savalas had to gain when he takes out Oliver Reed. But so basically, it sounds a little bit like, Lenny Popo and Ventura together. But so anyways, she hires him to take out... she wants Oliver Reed dead. So all the assassins from all the different countries have all these wild ideas. They're all in these ridiculous outfits trying to kill Oliver Reed. But meanwhile, Diana Rigg is following him to write the story, and Telly Savalas is getting information from her because she doesn't know. And it's completely farcical and ridiculous and fun and just silly. And the characters are outrageous, and there's a lot of double crossing and silliness. And the opening is a great montage of assassinations that are absolutely bonkers. This is a lot of fun. It even ends on a fucking Zeppelin blimp. I believe it's a Zeppelin blimp, and a sword fight where they're attempting to drop the first bomb. This is so much fun. And Telly Savalas is great, of course. Oliver Reed is great. Diana Rigg is great. All the side characters I love too. I would really recommend this. This is one of the bad guys who's the German, and he's just, yes, he has to be the German. But I think a lot of people will get a great kick out of this one. So as far as the special features are concerned, brand new audio commentary with Sean Hogan and Ken Newman. This is great. They're having laughs, not at the movie's expense, during the movie, and they talk about the history of it and the actors and all the people involved. Right film, wrong time, a 30-minute appreciation by critic, broadcaster, and cultural historian Matthew Sweet. Now that's interesting. It talks about how the movie, the source material, all that stuff. If you definitely check that one out. Original trailer, image gallery, reversible sleeve. Anyways, I had a lot of fun with this. Would watch this again. Definitely put it on in the background. You could tell it's from that late 60s kind of weird kind of look to it, early 70s, just silliness that I really like, gentlemen being ridiculous in insane ways. But a lot of fun. I think people will enjoy Assassination Bureau. I did. I thought it was great. Next one here is a new film from Thailand, and this is Dread Central Presents, and this is The Lake. Now, this is a monster flick, and it's Asian, so I was like, we're in for a treat. I'm definitely intrigued. I like my monster flicks, and I love my Asian flicks. So I put this in, and it starts off with great promise. There's an egg on this lake, this kind of like swampy area, and these fishermen are by it, and of course this giant monster comes out. Show the monster right away, kills everybody you assume, and disappears. We kind of fast forward through maybe a couple days the next day. A little girl finds the egg, and you kind of establish the family, and right then a smaller monster attacks and just starts ripping this small town apart. Of course, the local authorities are notified, one of which is a cop who's having trouble with his daughter. His daughter's on a car ride with him as he picked her up from school, his partner. They get involved, but the main focus is kind of this family, brother, sister, younger sister, and whatnot. You assume their mom died a long time ago or left, and their father is dead from the creature. And the whole kind of allegory is, because one of the person's been bit by the monster, and when the monster's hurt, they're hurt. Fear of something different causes, people to lash out and kill each other, stuff like that, and whatnot. Of course, the monster is misunderstood. What kind of, in the universal vein, what monster wouldn't be misunderstood, right? But this movie is in love with the scene in Jurassic Park during the rain. The Tyrannosaurus Rex has the kids trapped in the Jeep, and it's looking on the side of the window, and it's raining, and you see its eyes. That scene happens about 6 or 7 times in the lake. It literally does. It's verbatim. The CGI is pretty solid. I thought it looked pretty good. No complaints. I thought the little monster looked good. The big monster looks solid. No real complaints on the CGI. I thought it was well done. Now the big monster moves a little less. He's probably maybe some practicality in there as well. The one thing that kind of lost me is the end of the film. The last act starts to get very drama-based, which I don't mind, but it just seems very repetitive of people screaming and looking, and it cuts back, and we see that same Jurassic Park scene 5 or 6 times. Well, the ending kind of lost me. I'm not going to lie. The climactic scene, I just wasn't on board at the end. I thought the movie was solid and well-made and well done for what it was. I like it. It's just that the ending couldn't really bring me in and tie it all together well. And one thing I noticed is, like, nowadays if you hear a score, you can always tell if it's like a library score, like, hey, I bought this in a package. And this movie is definitely, I bought this score in a package. No offense to the composer if it is an actual composer, but it sounded exactly like library purchased music, and I'm just not a fan of that score. That's one thing that's missing out of a lot of films nowadays. Like I just talked about Convoy Busters and Shanghai Joe and Assassination Bureau, and those movies all have scores that are going to stand out and be completely different from anyone else, even if maybe Shanghai Joe lifted it from something else. Hey, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Those scores are memorable and different. This one, not so much. It's a lot of stings that you've heard before, a lot of, okay, here we go. The score doesn't work. I'm sorry. The locations are cool. The monsters are cool. The story's okay. Don't love it. Like it. Check it out. I think a lot of people will like this a lot more than me. And it's a rare case that we get this many like cool monsters. So check it out. Check it out. I think it's worth your time. It's just watch the trailer. I think you'll know if you'll like it or not. Going to be relatively quick with this one, and this is by Curtis Harrington. Curtis Harrington did a slew of movies, including Queen of Blood, and he did some old Biddy movies. And this one he did in 1961, and this stars Dennis Hopper. I almost said Charlie Bronson. Dennis Hopper. Now, Charles Bronson in this would have been a different movie. I don't think it exists. But Dennis Hopper, who was in Queen of Blood for Curtis Harrington as well. And he stars in this. It's a black and white picture. And this is a really solid movie. I had heard a lot about it years and years. And this follows a sailor who's kind of like, I guess he's like, kind of like located at this kind of area on the coast. And he runs into this strange girl in like a jazz bar, and he starts talking to her. And then he's like, can we hang out the next day? And she's like, sure. So they have like another date. And she's just very strange and different. And Dennis Hopper is so young in this, and you could tell why he's a star. He's got so much screen presence and charisma. He just seems very innocent, very kind of naive, but at the same time likable. So he starts to be very intrigued by this mermaid, and he finds out what she does. She kind of is a mermaid sideshow. At first he doesn't know, but she seems to be kind of like like iffy. And it comes to find out people around her are whispering, to Dennis Hopper that, hey, the last couple people that were around here didn't have very good ends. So maybe you need to, rethink your position here. And she has kind of like this adoptive father type who runs the sideshow, and he's just always drunk. This has like a film noir for sure, a mystery to it, a femme fatale, if you will. And Dennis Hopper, like I said, is really good in this, and he has this like great innocence. It also has got this weird nautical mythology, which I enjoy, and backdrop, which is pretty cool. And there's like circus folk kind of in the background everywhere and a little bit, so it has that aspect that I really like. Like Nightmare Alley. I've not seen the original, but the remake had that circus aspect as well. I need to watch the original, but it felt like circus and sideshows and things like that used to be such a bigger part of horror movies. So like when I see older ones and it's there, I'm always excited about it. Or even sometimes they would leak into the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even 90s, But I just always had a soft spot because when I was a kid, we'd go to even just little fairs and stuff, and they just had a certain charm about them. I always felt like, the kind of circus or the sideshows, or I know that they're dated, a lot of that stuff shouldn't probably ever be there, but it has a direct correlation with horror, and I think it kind of belongs. So when I see that stuff in here, I really like it. I really think that macabre and mystery and stuff all mixes together, noir, circus, horror, all that stuff. And this one fits in all that stuff, and it does have like some good nightmare sequences and some good mysteries about it. But this is a good film. Night Tide, I would recommend checking it out. Great title too. And out of the Curtis Harrington movies, did he do Killing Kind with John Savage? It's been years since I watched The Killing Kind, but I know he did a handful of movies that I have seen, and he's a pretty solid director, but I think Night Tide is one of his better ones for sure, so check it out. We're going to get into those 1981 movies.
Woe be unto him who opens one of the 7 gateways to hell, because through that gateway, evil will invade the world.
Valentine's Day is a curse that'll live on, and no one will know as the years come and go of the horror from long time ago. In this little town, when the 14th comes round, there's a silence and fear in the air. Remember the morn that the legend was born. All the shock and the horror was there. Oh, the legend, they say, on a Valentine's Day is a curse that'll live on and on. And no one will know as the years come and go of the horror from long time ago. And no one will know as the years come and go of the horror from long time ago.
And first up is Wolfen. Not really a werewolf movie, but of course it's always said it's one of the big werewolf movies in 1981 along with American Werewolf in London and Howling. Not really a werewolf movie, but there's also Night of the Werewolf. There's also Full Moon High. I think National Mummy has a werewolf sequence in it. So there's more than that if we're talking werewolves, okay? So Wolfen, all right. So this movie was one of these ones that I always tried to watch as a kid, and I was like, I don't get it. This is boring. But I was just being a baby. This is Albert Finney in it, Gregory Hines. There's some other people in here I don't want to forget. I know, like, who's in here. They're not even saying who's in the movie. I feel like I'm missing, like, the Diane Vernon. Edward James Olmos is also in here. And there's, like, some side characters. Like, you'll notice Tom Noonan is in here. Really good, supporting cast. So this is a solid film, and this is an adult horror film, which I really like. It follows Albert Finney. So in the very beginning of the movie, like, we have this, like, vision, like, we have, like, point of view, and it's not like your slasher point of view or your giallo point of view. It's very Alien or Predator point of view, I should say. I feel like Predator saw this movie. That was 87, and they kind of ripped the point of view that they have. So we see this crazy point of view, and we have this, like, rich guy is supposedly his wife and their bodyguard, and they are horribly killed. Disgustingly killed, hands chopped off, mangled, brutal, great gore effects, great special effects. And this guy was somebody very important. He's part of, like, a rich family dynasty. So Albert Finney is a detective. He's kind of a strange detective, and he's looking on the case trying to figure it out. Gregory Hines is, I believe he's an ambulance or a coroner. So they start to work together to try to figure this whole thing out, and he brings in the help of someone who's, I believe, into more of occult stuff, because they figure there might be some sort of voodoos, angles, all this kind of weird shit that could be related to this. Brings her in, and she starts, and Albert Finney and her start to have this strange relationship. But all signs end up pointing to Edward James Olmos, from a million movies, including Blade Runner and Stand and Deliver. I believe he's in Stand and Deliver. It's been years. But that was one of my mom's favorite movies. I don't remember if I watched that or not. I think I did. But so what happens is he starts to look into him, and Edward James Olmos gives him this whole rundown of what could possibly be out there. They don't know. They know it's some sort of canine, and it's Wolfen. And that's it's this Native American kind of transferring shapeshifters is what they're saying. So basically it's shapeshifting wolves, and they don't typically do this in too many movies. There's been a couple, I believe. The Beast Must Die, the Amicus picture, they transfer into a wolf only, but they consider that a werewolf. This one they do not. They're the Wolfen, almost like a Nightbreed character, right? The Wolfen who can shapeshift into things. Twilight later also has kind of the giant wolves, but these are just bigger wolves and everything like that. But I was very impressed with the point of view stuff. Like I said, it was definitely a precursor to Predator. And I was also, and I loved the camera work in that, going around the run-down city, because the Wolfen prey on, what society doesn't want. The homeless people, the drug addicts, the people that are on the outskirts of society that will go into these kind of, like, abandoned buildings, but they're renovating them so the Wolfen feel like they need to protect their home. So the people responsible are who? Guess what? The rich people. That's why they're attacking them as well. So there's these interesting things like that. Of course, like an element of classism or whatever, gentrification, whatever, and this is before Giuliani started cleaning up New York, I take it. And so there's that, right? Yeah, but there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in Wolfen. The score is great. It's James Horner, very reminiscent of what he would do in Aliens. I believe he did the Alien score. I hear beats of that. The score is great. The special effects are fantastic. And there's a good mystery story to it, a very adult detective story. And when I was a kid, I was like, Wolfen's boring. I want Howling and American Werewolf in London. Now I'm like, Wolfen's pretty fucking good, man. This is good stuff. This is a very professionally well done, well shot movie with great cast, great score, great cinematography. What more can I want? Good dialogue, funny funny dialogue because the characters are solid. Just good stuff. You know, everybody's solid in it. Everybody's good. They have a lot of good stuff. Wish there was more special features on the Warner Archive disc. There's not really anything. And I should mention that the director did the Woodstock. He directed Woodstock, you know, about Woodstock, the documentary. But he didn't really do much else as far as directing goes. But this is a good one. This is a movie that I'm glad I watched for 81, and I had not seen it in years. I know it was, I don't even know if I sat down and saw the whole thing because it had that weird element of boredom to like a 10-year-old. But it does not. It definitely entertains the 36-year-old Dave Parker. The next up, of course, is the Boogens. What's this director's name? James Conway. James L. Conway. So, yeah. Anyways, The Boogens was a movie that I remember being very excited when I picked it up on VHS. There's a VHS over there. I know there is. And hell, I'm doing Alison's birthday next. I have Alison's birthday on VHS. Didn't even know that. But when I was a kid, Boogens was one that I tracked down. And I got it at a good price on VHS, and I was so excited to watch it. It was one that I did not see when I was 10 or 12. I was probably like 13, 14, got the VHS, and I was like, Corey, we're going to watch The Boogens. I remember reading a review of it, and somebody like had said that there's an old man who just keeps saying, The Boogens, The Boogens. So that happens once. So I was like, fuck that guy. But anyways, The Boogens. It also was very popular because Stephen King gave it like a nice write-up and said it's really terrifying. So this is like mine horror, right? Like underground coal mining horror. That's My Bloody Valentine's the same year. So that's pretty cool. So basically what we have here is they show all these old pictures of these old timing mines, and they tell you the story through all these newspaper clippings. It's really nice opening and really great, you know, exposition. So basically there was something in these mines years ago, and there's cave-ins. They blew it up. They sealed them off. Now they're going to reopen them because somebody wants to make a couple bucks. There's a couple young kids on the job, but there's a couple old timers as well showing them the ropes. And the dialogue all seems very natural, all entertaining. The old guys seem real. Like, I know old guys like this. I worked with old guys like this. And you kind of get the sense that all these characters are really pretty well-rounded, pretty realistic, and you like them. So there's a couple girls that come into town for the guys, the young guys, and, you know, they're going back and forth from working and trying to get back to hang out with their, you know, their lady friends and have some fun. But of course, after they blast those mines open, there's an old, like, kind of crazy Ralph-style character around keeping a close eye to those mines because he knows that the Boogens, whatever the fuck those are in the mind. The director said that it's based on an ancient Scottish folktale that he made up. So there you go. So the Boogens basically are these kind of weird, I don't know what the fuck, tentacled creatures, not quite chuds, not quite the thing from The Strangeness, but nothing in between that either. I don't know what the fuck they are. They're these weird, gross things with a lot of teeth, and they have tentacles. So the Boogens start to pick people off here and there. Now, I must admit, this movie has good atmosphere, good suspense. It's well shot. Yeah, there's a scene where it's like somebody goes into the basement to get something, and the Boogens is stalking them the whole time by point of view. That's really well done. It's really builds suspense. There's lots of great cinematography in that aspect. It is slow to get us started, you know. The Boogens is pretty slow to get started, I will admit. And it's all overall solid movie. I enjoy it. I like it. But it's to a slow start. But once it picks up, it's good. I mean, if people get picked off, the Boogens are scary, they're gross, but they're kind of goofy at the same time. The people who made it don't seem that impressed with the Boogens creatures themselves. But it's got a good atmosphere, it's got a fun story, it's got a great setup, and it's got good characters for the most part, you know, solid enough. You know, and I enjoy the Boogens. I think it's pretty good. Is it going to make my top 10 at 81? No. Is it going to make my bottom 20? Absolutely not. It's good. I enjoy the Boogens. As far as the special features are concerned, we have audio commentary with director James L. Conway, screenwriter David O'Malley, and star Rebecca Balding. Now, I really like the lead actress in there. I think she's great. Got a great, unique look. And the director actually got married from the actress in this movie, so they talk about that a lot, so that's really great. And they're still married. That's beautiful. But yeah, the director seems like a nice guy. He knows his horror movies. He likes his horror movies. And overall seems like a really nice, educated man. And this movie is pretty fun. So here it is, Stephen King. I recommend The Boogens. Widely energetic monster movie. Twilight Zone magazine. So, you know, Stephen King's a great writer. Or a very popular writer. I don't know about his choice in film all the time. But hey, he's a millionaire and I'm not. So listen to Stephen King. The Boogens. Next up from 1981 is an Australian joint, and this is Alison's Birthday. Now this bad boy is in the All Haunts BR's, a folk horror box set. and this is from Severn Films, and I finally got to dive into this bad boy. This thing has so many movies in it, and Alison's Birthday happened to be one of them. Alison's Birthday, I don't think ever had a Blu-ray stateside, or maybe not even a DVD stateside. I don't think so. It was kind of lost on VHS here in the States. So Alison's Birthday, I popped this in, and it opens up right away with like kind of this, these kids are playing a Ouija board, and it tells this girl's age, and she's like, what, 14, 15, and it's counting down to her 19th birthday, which is really unique. And one of her friends is possessed. Something goes horribly wrong. There's a warning, right? Like any classic horror story, like Crimson Peak, beware of Crimson Peak. House by the Cemetery, the person in the painting telling you not to go there. So she gets a horrible warning, omen, if you will. Not even that, just a straight up warning. And it basically says, get away while you can. I'm your father. And her father and her mother are both dead, and they're trying to contact her through the past. So we kind of fast forward, and she's grown up. She's dating someone, and she gets a call from her aunt that says, why don't you come back for your birthday? Your uncle's sick. We need you here for your birthday. And right away, you know something's up. Right? I started getting vibes like Rosemary's Baby, Hereditary. But after a while, I started getting more vibes like Suspiria remake, Brotherhood of Satan. And it's all these. It's part, Rosemary's Baby with the cult, underground, kind of secretive stuff. It's part, Brotherhood of Satan, exactly like that. So it has all these elements of other horror films that you've seen, but this one was a little ahead of some of those movies. It's ahead of Hereditary. It's, and so there's that. So basically what happens is we start to realize that a lot of people aren't who they say they are. And that idea of that, like, people calling you back to your home for some other implement, that whole, they raised you for this. Society is also like that, right? Crowhaven Farm has that element too. You're going back to this small town where you were supposed to go back. There was one from last year or something like that where you were raised to be this sacrificial lamb or some sorts. Get Out. It's also Get Out, right? It's very much Get Out at the same time. Or Skeleton Key. If anybody's seen that, I basically spoiled the fuck out of all these movies and Alison's Birthday if you've seen one of them. Sorry. But you get the point, right? It's very much in these. And there's a couple moments that are really good. The opening is interesting. There is a great dream sequence, nightmare sequence, where there's kind of like Stonehenge shit involved. The ending is great. The ending is what makes this movie above average. Before that, it's kind of it's slow. It's dull. Some of the dialogue is written a little iffy. But it's not horrible, and it's interesting, and it's well done, but it is dull. But the ending, when this character realizes what happened and who they are, and they give you the 101st birthday or 104th birthday, you're like, that is dark, that is great, wonderful ending, really depressing, really sad. As far as the special features are concerned, we have extended interviews from the Not Quite Hollywood with some of the people who worked on this, and then we have a really good who did it. Was it Alexandria Heller Nichols did the special feature on here, and it tackles Satanism, in particular the Satanic Panic in Australia at the time, which is cool. It kind of came over from the United States. It's an import they got from us. So that's pretty cool. Nice little featurette on there. But this is an interesting movie. Like, love it or hate it, it doesn't really matter sometimes for me. It kind of matters where it fits in that historical horror puzzle. And this one's one that I'm glad I saw because, I'm picturing pinning together. It's like Brotherhood of Satan, Rosemary's Baby, Brotherhood of Satan, Alison's Birthday, you keep going, and you're like, these themes and these ideas are in so many horror films. So when people are like, that's a ripoff of this, it's like, come on, guys. They all have a lot of the same DNA. And if you got to keep referencing this is a ripoff of this, do a little bit more research and start mentioning other films that do it too, like for all the way from 1968 to 1970 to 1971. You got it. Like, it's like movies that have these themes and these feelings and stuff like that, right? There's so many like these. Just this whole box set has all this shit on top of that. So when people are like, just quit being lazy and you're saying when movies rip off other movies, there's a million movies that did it before and after the movie you're referencing. So anyways, Alison's Birthday, pretty interesting stuff. So yeah. And the last one is the Patreon pick, and this is from Bergman, of course, and this is The Seventh Seal. This stars Max von Sydow, of course, from The Exorcist and Hour of the Wolf and Citizen X. Great actor, interesting actor. Got a start in the Bergman movies, or he became popular from the Bergman movies. This one is 57. It's a period piece. Takes place during the Black Plague, which is an awful fucking time in our history. Probably one of the worst places to be alive at in the plague. So he is a religious crusader, and he was convinced to go on this religious crusade from some scummy piece of shit, you learn later. And he has basically his squire with him. And his squire is, I don't know this actor's name, but he's in a lot of films, and he is fucking excellent. Everything he says is brilliant. It's a wonderful actor. He's a wonderfully written, interesting character. I thought that he was by far the best character, the most interesting character, and the most unique character, and a different kind of character you see. And I was just like, I really think this character is vastly interesting to me, and I enjoyed all of the stuff that he said. So Max von Sydow, in the very beginning, realizes that he's supposed to die. Death shows up on the beach, along with his squires, washed up there, and it seems like maybe there was an accident of sorts. And Death says, let's go. He says, well, are you good at chess, Death? You're not better than me, Devil went down the Georgia style, right? And, well, that's a little different, okay? He better... Whatever, forget that reference. But he basically says, hey, if I beat you in chess, you got to let me go. And the devil's like, why not? I mean, the Death is like, why not? Not the devil. Death's like, sure. So they're playing chess, this whole thing, while they're moving the story along, and they're going across the country, and they're running into other people who supposedly are on Death's list as well. And he meets a couple actors, traveling actors, a few of them. He meets Smith, who basically his wife is cheating on him. And he's out to find one of the actors and his wife and put an end to it. We meet a peasant girl who the squire saves in a rape from a scoundrel, a thief. And we meet all sorts of other people along the way. Awful people that are being affected by the plague, people, scared people, normal people. And there's really great aspects of like kind of religion and doubting religion and all this other things, and how religion's used to scare and put the fear in people and everything. And you have the whole, what is the thing where they flog themselves? That's such a fucked up thing they used to do. During the plague, they blamed themselves and heathens basically because the plague, they said God's punishing them, so they'd walk around flagging themselves and others, carrying crosses, and in reality they're spreading the plague everywhere they go because the blood and bacterial infection. The Black Plague was bacterial infection, which is really, if you're in a dirty, gross environment, is terrifying because bacterial infections, you can be reinfected every time with it. So you could get rid of it and you could get reinfected. A viral infection, usually your body fights it off and creates immunity to it. So that's the thing about the Black Plague, is you can keep catching it until you're fucking dead. And a lot of times it kills you the first time. If it didn't get you the first time, it might get you the second time. So it's just a crazy backdrop to this, and all this going on while he's playing chess for his life. And they set it up with one of the actor characters having these kind of visions, and his wife never believes him, but at the very end he does have a vision. It's not even a vision, he's just seeing. He's seeing what's happening to his friends being led by death. This is a good film, obviously. It's black and white. It's well shot. It's well acted. It's well written. It's interesting. I feel like Bergman was one of those guys that just did a lot of stuff before anyone else did. And you're like, oh, yeah, so that's why this is good. I mean, besides just being good, the dialogue is interesting. The story is interesting, of course, and the period it's set in is something that I'm vastly interested in. So, yeah, good movie. Good pick. Glad I watched it. I like it. I don't like it better than Persona, but I like it better than Hour of the Wolf. I put the second for the ones I've watched. Oh, Serpent's Nest too. I saw with David Carradine. Where would I put? I actually probably around the same time as Hour of the Wolf. I know that's blasphemy, but still, I need to revisit Hour of the Wolf. But anyways, Seventh Seal, great stuff. Obviously, newsflash, Seventh Seal, a good movie. Yeah. Alright guys, questions, comments, concerns, all that jazz. So, Movie Junkie reviews. Sunset Boulevard is a good movie with some gothic undertones. I remember watching it in cinema, of course. I agree. Mad science films. Vampire's Kiss is great once you realize it's not a vampire film, but a savage takedown of 80s yuppie culture. Indeed. That's why I kind of compared it to American Psycho. I feel they're very similar. D. Domino. Congrats on 6 years of weekly updates. Thank you for all that you do. There are so many movies that I wouldn't have found out about if you hadn't talked about them. Not sure if what your grand plan is, but I hope we have years more to look forward to. At least 10. I'll give you 10. I don't know about after that. Maybe I'll be dead before then. Floyd 75 Dylan, forget Criterion. You better off getting Eureka's 4K police story box set. Orthodontology. Sorry, Steve. That is a tongue twister, and you know it is. I absolutely love the intros of your 1980 and 1981 retrospective videos. Your editing and choice timing and the music absolutely nails the overall aesthetic, tone, and atmosphere of the period in which the films first existed. Thank you very much. I love them. Keep doing what you do. It's very much appreciated. Oh, and thanks for reviewing Danza Macabra. I received mine last week. Looking forward to digging in. Let me know what you think. Ilk Vomit. How does it feel to be all up in awesomeness of the Hong Kong cinema? As a longtime watcher and commenter, I'm absolutely loving that you're loving it. It took a long time for you to get here with these movies, but I'm glad it stuck it out. See, with the horror films, I was gonna be into those anyways. You know, I watched the Hong Kong ones, and I love the horror films. But as far as like the martial arts films and the action films, I had seen a couple, but I am glad too. I'm glad I'm watching them now. They're great, and they're getting a lot of releases now, so it just fits perfect. Chris Miller, the police story looks really great. Jackie is the man. That he is. Nick Mua, the Cat Creeps looks like a whole lot of fun. I might pick it up. Don't you just love fiendish felines? I do. Love the Terror and Track Possession episode. The soundtrack is almost as batshit crazy as the movie itself. You might go insane yourself with repeated viewings. No doubt. Questions. We both seem to love cats. Can you understand why some people find them creepy or scary? I don't know. I mean, well, they have the old history with witches, right? They're supposed to be familiars. And cats are very quiet. They can sneak up on you. And if you've ever watched a cat find a bug or a small rodent, they will fuck with them until they kill them. So, I mean, and large cats are very dangerous. If house cats were bigger, by probably like 3-4 times, we'd be in trouble. Do evil cat movies work better in black and white or color? Kim Newman prefers black and white. I mean, I assume you're talking about the black and white cat people. There's other ones, you know. But, geez, I don't know. I feel like the black and white killer cat movies probably have a better track record of being quality films. And with the shadows and everything like that, if you don't want to show the transformations, you can really do stuff with shadows, like Val Lewton stuff did. So, you know, with the original cat people. Now, do I prefer the old cat people or the 80s cat? I probably prefer the original cat people over the 82 cat people, to be honest. So, I don't know. But, I mean, it's not like by a country mile or anything. They're both very different, hard to compare. Which physical release are you looking forward to most this year? I'm not too sure. Messiah of Evil's coming out from Radiance Films. That looks great. Will there ever be a Mrparka Super Deluxe box set that has all your movies? No, not at all. They're all owned by different people anyways. No one would want a box set for me. I mean, there's the Mrparka for the Mrparka, the two I made. One I partially directed, one I directed. And then there's a bunch of the Dustin Mills stuff. There's a few Scott Shermer movies. There's one from Adam Albrecht. So, like, there's, I mean, with Fred Vogel one, none of these movies could be ever put together. So it's not really going to ever happen. I know it's a joke, but still. Till next week, take it easy. You too. The most hated one. Car brakes needing a fix, just like me. Love your weekly reviews. Thanks for being informative and entertaining to watch. You're welcome. And thank you. What the flick? I remember the first review I seen of yours. It was the Men Behind the Sun review. No joke. You are literally the first person I subscribed to on YouTube's. Thank you for the years of infotainment. Thank you. That's it. That's infotainment. But I can't wait for the Men Behind the Sun box set to get released again. I have to review it. It's one of the first reviews I did. Wasted time to control shop. If you was playing a goon in an action film, what would your outfit be? For example, biker, Mad Max style, or classic ski mask. Great vid like always. Younger, I would go for the punk. I'd go for like an 80s punk rocker. I'd have my hair and I'd spike it up. But I don't know. Now I feel like I would want to be a Western goon. You know, like a Sergio Leone goon. Anybody from a spaghetti Western. You can make them like, you can maybe put me in a suit, try to make me look suave, or you can make me just ugly as shit and just goofy, which I am. So, definitely from a Western. I want to be a spaghetti Western. Wasted time. Oh, wait. Ken Coakley. I heard you say in response to spy films you mentioned Day of the Jackal and Black Sunday, which are two films I liked as well. I saw Day of the Jackal at the theater when I was a kid. I thought it would be one of those movies you would like earlier in life but didn't hold up. But Day of the Jackal is still amazing and very intriguing. Michael Lonsdale, who played the French cop trying to catch the jackal, is also the villain in Moonraker. Yeah, Day of the Jackal's good. I saw Black Sunday at the local theater a few years ago, and the scene where Robert Shaw asked if the Super Bowl was a big event, everyone in the audience laughed because they were so young and couldn't know that the Super Bowl wasn't the event back in 1977 that it is today. Of course, people don't understand context. Back then, there was no billion-dollar commercials. The casting was great as well, with Stephen Keats from Death Wish, and one of my favorite of his films, The Friends of Eddie Coyle. I need to watch that. I saw part of it on television years ago, and I have the Blu-ray. Bruce Dern turned in another manic performance. Martha Keller made this after Marathon Man. Unfortunately, after this, she appeared with Al Pacino in the film Bobby Deerfield. In regard to Sunset Boulevard, this film is Tony Todd's favorite film. There's a funny nod to Sunset Boulevard in John Waters' film Cecil B. Demented. Melanie Griffin said, "I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. Demented." Yeah, Cecil B. Demented's a wild movie. I love all the people have the tattoos of like the directors on their arm, like Peckinpah and Fuller and stuff like that. So then Ben Masters, Poselli's The Vampire and Ballerina is great fun. It is. The monster I remember being the vampire I remember really gross looking. Dada Debaser, the giallo you were attempting to remember was The Killer Reserved 9 Seats. That is the fucking title. Thank you. Kentuckinator, congrats on 6 years. Thank you. So I'm going to draw some Patreon picks. I don't have an update this week, unfortunately, but I'm going to draw some Patreon picks. Well, let's do 5 names out of the hat, see what we get. I'm always kind of excited to what I'll be watching, you know. Again, somebody, I think Jim Carroll, he skips ahead. I know that I'm supposed to be Banquet of the Beast is what I'm supposed to do for him. So that one's going to automatically be in here. So, because he hasn't been drawn out in a while. So, I believe it's Carroll. Chris Carroll, I think, did that. So here we go. James Baker, Incident at Raven's Gate, which is a sci-fi movie from Australia, if I'm not mistaken. I have seen it. Title, don't know it. Don't know much about it. Then what we have here is John Wilhelm. Any Vinegar Syndrome release you haven't seen. I love that. I love when people give me shit like that. And then plus the Banquet of the Beast one, which I do have a DVD of. Oh, David Luton, The Seventh Seal. Luton, either get back to me on that, or if you have another one in mind, tell me, and I'll throw it in, because I already covered that one. Okay, Dan the Cameraman, spaghetti list from Letterboxd. I take it this is a list he sent me where people eat spaghetti. Dan, you fucking maniac. And then we have Jason Willard X. And I already covered X. So Jason Willard. What do we have? So if you have something else in mind real quick, throw it at me. And let's just do this last one up here. Jonathan Wilhelm. We'll do another one too. Serpent of Death. Jonathan Wilhelm. And last, if those guys get at me and you guys have one, just let me know. And Travis Linscomb, Breaking Away. That's the running movie, if I'm not mistaken. And I am a runner. If you guys didn't know this, I run every day. I'm a distance runner. Not super far distance, but I do run a lot. You know, sometimes an hour, sometimes an hour and a half, whatever, you know. But every day, at least 27 to 30 minutes I run, you know, on my lunch break or whatever. But you guys, we're out of here. I don't have an update. I'm poor. Poor boy needs brakes fixed. Oh, yeah, by the way, my brakes, the drums, it's going to cost $1,159 fucking dollars. So, yeah, I love that for me. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. And as always, have a good one. Okay, next up from 1981 is from the great Australian place. Wait,